What do you know? We actually have our first piece of information regarding the 2022 season, and it's gonna be a new roller coaster coming to America, so yeah, things are starting to look up over the horizon. For those of you who don't keep up with the news, Gerstlauer and leaked sources have stated they are coming to the US with a new record-breaking roller coaster in 2022. And that's about it. That's all the information we have. They have not given us anything else. Not what park it's going to, not what record it's gonna break. Basically, everything is open to interpretation, and for that reason I want to try give my insight on what this coaster is potentially going to be, and what park it may potentially end up at. Now, if I'm trying to establish a location, I want to first look at the chains. First off with Six Flags, yeah, nope, not gonna happen. We know Six Flags and Gerstlauer's rocky relationship. If you don't, let me summarize it in a few key terms. 2013, new Texas giant. Restraints, unfortunate incident. Blame, back and forth between the two companies, until they eventually boycotted one another. So, moving on. SeaWorld would have been my next logical prediction, with their newfound investments in roller coasters, but sadly that did not last, like, at all. Every new edition, not gonna make a return on those, and every future project that was already in development, those are either cancelled or delayed, and even if all of them were still happening, none of them were even rumored to be a Gerstlauer. There was a surf coaster by B&M and Intamin Spire, even some other coasters that were rumored but didn't get much traction. Still, SeaWorld didn't seem to have any interest in working with this company, and they haven't exactly worked with them before. Which means the only major chain left is Cedar Fair, and the park I'm specifically going to be talking about is Cedar Point because, come on, they're due for a coaster. Steel Vengeance opened in 2018, and by 2022 it's going to be 4 years since that ride. The other parks have got some time before the next coaster. Canada's Wonderland and Carowinds, they got their last major coaster in 2019. Kings Island, they just got Orion last year. I would say King's Dominion, I would really love to, but they're already getting their SNS 40 free spin in 2022. So, they're gonna have to wait a little bit longer. I could see a different park like Dollywood or Silver Dollar City could get the Gerstlauer, but Occam's Razor, the simplest solution, is probably the best one. Cedar Fair, they've had a recent experience with Gerstlauer. Hershey Entertainment, they seem to want to work with other manufacturers and different coaster types instead of ones that Gerstlauer can provide, so Cedar Point is the best option. But, what is this coaster going to be like? I want to start with my most outlandish and, stupid idea I have. Now, what if this 2022 Gerstlauer was going to be a polar coaster? Now, don't click off or spam that dislike button because I know it sounds ludicrous and it's likely not going to happen, but let me just explain my thinking. You know how Cedar Point's been teasing they were going to get a 500-foot coaster? Now, obviously, most of that was just kind of mocking us. Like, oh, are we going to get a 500-foot coaster? Maybe, maybe not. 500 feet likely means the coaster is just going to be big. Not that any major addition at Cedar Point is small, you get what I mean. It's just if they were going to get a 500-foot coaster, this could be it. I know there are a few wrinkles in this theory, like the original polar coaster is going to be built by Intamin, not Gerstlauer, and Gerstlauer has never built a coaster this large. I'm sure some of you guys are in the comments right now saying, the original polar coaster was meant to be built by Intamin, and the price tag for that was over $300 million, which is just a little bit more than what Cedar Point would spend on a roller coaster. And yes, dear viewer, that is true, 100%. But the Orlando Skyplex, that wasn't just the polar coaster, no. This thing was a physical building, with a drop tower in the middle, an observation deck on the top, possibly even a restaurant or something. Not to mention the entire resort and all the attractions that were supposed to surround it. When you take everything into account, you can see why the price tag was so huge. So for this theoretical coaster, let's strip away all of this. Just the bare bones of it, supports and track, and shrink the circumference a little bit, make it more narrow and smaller. Have it be a 500-foot tower with a coaster circulating it. Now, I don't know how much this would actually cost. The only coaster I could probably compare it to would be Top Thrill Dragster or King Ka. These coasters are essentially one structure. However, I can't exactly match these up to see if they're going to be the exact same price. Because a ride like Top Thrill Dragster, a lot of the money went into research and development for the Stratocoaster, and the launch system must have cost a pretty penny. So would this polar coaster happen? Oh, definitely not. It's just the RMC T-Rex isn't coming, and I had to save whatever hope I had for a 500-foot coaster. Looks like it's going to be another decade before we see the first T-Rex. RMC is not making this concept their first priority. Understandable, but disappointing. So there's no harm in throwing this idea in the realm of possibility. But let me discuss some ideas I have more faith in seeing happen. The first Gerstlauer concept I thought of was maybe the fastest accelerating coaster. Flug von Offroad, that has a wicked acceleration, so this may not be that far off. Claim the title of the fastest accelerating coaster in North America. Great. If it wasn't for a few flaws in this plan. For one, I thought they would tear down Wicked Twister by now. You know, get rid of one launch coaster, add a launch coaster, simple. The problem is it's still here, and I feel there'd be too many launch coasters in the park. Although, it doesn't really matter if they have another, just more the merrier. But a different issue arises when you realize they have top-level dragster, so they don't need another fast accelerating coaster. My second option would be the steepest roller coaster in the world. Gerstlauer, they have experience with this. The current steepest coaster in the world is TMNT Shellraiser at 121.5 degrees. It'd be funny if they gave a big middle finger to TMNT by just making it half a degree steeper. I mean, they did that to Takabisha, so it's only fair. Now, to make this ride in true Cedar Point style, they would have to make it like 200 feet. To make this ride stand out, I feel they would have to make it like Carnin or Cannibal. Yes, I know Cannibal is not a Gerstlauer coaster, I'm saying like the ride, so just get off my back about it. The coaster's chain lift can be completely enclosed. To make sure it can have a 122 degree drop, they can have a platform like Cannibal and just extend it outwards. Marketing this coaster would be so easy. Just think about it. Cedar Point, home of the world's steepest roller coaster. And it's gonna show up every coaster at Cedar Point with a 90-degree drop, which is like 5 of them. So in terms of Cedar Point lineup, it's gonna be unique and original, which is really all I care about. The last option I have for a Gerstlauer coaster is something I've said before and something people are speculating now, and that is a Gerstlauer with the most inversions out of any coaster. The current record is the Smiler with 14. So this coaster would have to have a minimum of 15 inversions to break the record. And I'm sorry, 15 inversions? That's a little much. I usually max out at 7 before I have to take a breather, but 15 inversions, I'm not sure about rewritability. You can go on this once and maybe be fine, but twice, yeah, you're gonna have to lay down on a bench and try to resist vomiting. However, that's just my opinion because I would get sick on this, no question. So let's say Cedar Point they were going with this inversion option, and they weren't that concerned with rewritability. This Smiler-like coaster would be compact, wouldn't take up any space, which is crucial since Cedar Point they don't have much land to work with. Not to mention it would be a record breaker. Then this coaster would be a success for Cedar Point. The only other issue I have with this theoretical attraction besides rideability would be they don't need another looping coaster. They have Raptor, they have Gatekeeper, they have Rougarou. They don't need this. Although this detail may not matter, people don't really care much about continuity. If I had to pick between these 4 options, I would go for the steepest coaster one. It would be different enough, the public would get a kick out of it, and I want to see something similar to Carnin come to America. The polar coaster option, not gonna happen, but it'd be funny if it did. For the time being, that's all I can say about this new Gerstlauer coaster. I think I pointed out every possible outcome, except maybe that voting Gerstlauer. Seriously, you can actually vote if you want to go forwards or backwards. Imagine that at Cedar Point. Looks intriguing, but it's more of a quick thought I just wanted to throw in, at least until we get something more than just a vague statement. Then I'll give you something else besides my speculatory views. So if you have a different idea than what I presented, please leave it down in the comments, like and subscribe, everything to make me happy. And obviously the YouTube algorithm, that would help me immensely against that. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you next week. Bye.